listening to the Theology of Games podcast, your source for gaming news, reviews, and interviews with the top voices in the industry. Find us online at theologyofgames.com. And now, here are your hosts, Scott Firestone and Jeremiah Isley.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 19 of the Theology of Games podcast. And I, for those who don't know, because I haven't been on a couple episodes recently, I'm Scott Firestone. And my partner here is...
It's me, Jeremiah Isley. How's it going, Scott? How you been?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
Oh, it's been an interesting summer, but I am none the worse for the wear, at least for now.
Is that right?
As far as I know. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks. I haven't been around for a couple episodes. We had the best of intentions, and we talked about recording a podcast. And the next thing we know, it was the end of the month, and we weren't doing it. And so had some of your pals pinch hit for me, and I appreciate that. And I enjoyed listening to it. It's a different dynamic when you have a room full of people who are in the same room.
Yes.
And they can kind of play off each other in a different way. And so I enjoyed that. And obviously, I wish that was something that we could do, but we can't do that because we're so many states away from each other.
So many states away. I wonder how many it actually is. But there's it may not be many states, but they're really big ones.
And boring ones,
like
too.
Nebraska.
Oh,
Nebraska's the worst. Everybody in Nebraska just turned off this podcast.
I drove across Nebraska one time. A friend of mine got tickets to a Nebraska football game. Uh-huh. So we drove from Colorado all the way, and it's on the other side of Nebraska from Colorado where they play.
Right.
So we drove all the way across the state, went to the football game, and then we had the bright idea, let's just drive back tonight and get home. So
wrong.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
We were cranking music. We were punching each other to keep each other awake. We were rolling down the windows and kind of trying to get the cool air in. And so we probably got home at 2 a.m, and it was just dumb. But it didn't help that it was freaking Nebraska.
I drove across Nebraska once, and it was after the loadout. I was in Denver for a week working, and we loaded out. We closed up the truck at 2 a.m. and got in and started driving. It was the worst, worst drive ever. The crazy thing is your mind starts playing tricks on you. You see lights up ahead and you're like, oh, there's a town up here. Maybe we'll stop and we'll, get something to drink or, whatever it is. And you get closer and you're like, oh, it's just a farmhouse.
Stupid farmer.
Right. There's no
I love
cities.
Farmers. They're the backbone of America.
They are, but there's no cities in Nebraska. There's just farmhouses.
Yeah.
Pretending to be cities in the night. So I don't know why we just derailed on that. But what do you say we tell folks what's going on in this episode and what they can look forward to if they decide to keep listening to us rambling on?
Well, we're going to start out with some news in the board gaming industry, hashtag Gen Con. And then we have our horribly boringly named On the Table, which is accurate. These are games we have on the table.
It's accurate, we've been playing, but it's very utilitarian.
Yeah, we need to come up with it.
I can't abide.
Then we're going to try something new where we're going to do one of our double take reviews. We do these double take reviews where it's kind of a back and forth review of a game, and we do it on the blog all the time, but we thought, hey, what if we did a little more in depth on the podcast for one game? So tonight we're going to do Custom Heroes from AEG.
Looking forward to that.
What else do we have going on, Jeremiah?
The legendary, the one, the only, Fire and Ice. That's right. That's where each of us give a game that we're on fire for right now, we're hot on, and one that we're not on. See how I did that? It's internal rhyming. Yeah, we're gonna hit the Fire and Ice segment. We're gonna do the semi-legendary fill in the blank segment, which is a good time. And then the super fast, quick questions, maybe not so quick answers in the lightning round to wrap up the show. And then we'll get out of here and let you get on your way with your rest of your day or whatever time it is that you're actually listening to this.
Sounds good to me. Let's jump in. So the big news is Gen Con. It was a few weeks ago, and Jeremiah actually went to Gen Con for the whole stinking time.
The whole stinking time. I was there.
I'm jealous.
You should be jealous. I'm not even going to lie. Like, you should be completely jealous because it was amazing. I was there from Wednesday night. I drove in Wednesday night, checked into the hotel, and just kind of chilled out for that evening. And then I hit it hard Thursday morning all the way through to Sunday night. And I was very curious, like, am I going to be cool with 4 days of convention? Cause I've never stayed, more than a couple days at a convention. Actually, Origins this year, I did 2 days, came home for a day, and then took my boys back down for the last day. So that was the most I had ever done at a convention. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, I'm like, is this going to burn me out? Am I going to just hate this by the end? It couldn't have been further from the truth. I ran out of time on Sunday. The exhibit hall closed. I think it was just an hour early. So every day it was usually at 6 that it closed, but on Sunday they closed. Maybe it was even 4. It was 4 or 5. And I was like, I ran out of time. Like, there were so many other things that I wanted to see and people I wanted to talk to and things like that. But it was just a great time. Just to give proper plugging to where plugging is due. I was there. Tasty Minstrel Games actually brought me in as a hired gun to produce a podcast episode for them. So it's part of their podcast, but it's kind of a special installment, I guess. And it's about Gen Con. It's not just about, hey, Tasty Minstrel Games. It's more about the board gaming community. So it's called What Makes, and the first episode of that kind of sub-series, I guess, it was about Gen Con. And I kind of tried to embody, like, This American Life or Freakonomics or a radio show or a podcast that is more about telling the story of an experience, other than just kind of like, here's the newest thing, and hey, it's the crazy fun thing. And so I really tried to go that route with it, and I think it came out really great. I was really, really pleased with everything that came together for that. It was a ton of work. It was like, I think I logged like 60 hours of work almost when I did that thing. Yeah, it was a heavy load, but it was such a joy to work on. And they were very gracious and helped me out and get me in a hotel and everything, because housing there is crazy. So yeah, that was Gen Con. It was a blast. There was over 500 new games released or previewed there. Over 500 exhibitors in the exhibit hall. And I went over to Lucas Oil Stadium, and they had taken over the football field with the gaming library and a bunch of tournament tables, and it was the most bizarre sight ever. But yeah, it was an amazing time. Gen Con is completely worth the hype. I know a lot of people say like, oh, it's such a big spectacle. It's such a big show, but man, I had a blast with it. It was great. Origins was great this year, but Gen Con was even better. And
what was your highlight?
Oh gosh.
Like a game or an experience or whatever.
So many. I was able to go, Yellow Games had a VIP press kind of night. And so I went to that and hung out, and they kind of showed off some of the new games that are coming out this year. And then Allison Hayslip, who is TV personality, she's been she was on The Voice for the first few seasons, and she's doing the BattleBots show and stuff like that. Right. She's like their new ambassador. So she was there, and her and I have connected through a different podcast. So we ended up playing a co-op game with a couple other people there. And so that was a pretty cool experience. That was the first night. I think that was Thursday. So
Nice.
Or no, maybe it was Friday. I don't remember. It's a blur. Like everything happened
whatever.
so fast.
Yeah. So as an observer, it seemed to me like the highlight or the big news for me was Twilight Imperium 4.
Yeah.
Did you get to see that at all? Or
here's the thing with Gen Con. all the big, like everybody's there, right? Like
right.
all the big publishers, Fantasy Flight, Asmodee, Mayfair, they're all there. But to get into their booths, you have to fight a sea of humanity that is on top of a sea of humanity. So, I mean, they have volunteers that their job is to just hold a sign so people know where the end of the line is. Because it wraps around the booth and it goes down the aisleway and around it's nuts. So I really, for the most part, steered clear of those booths because it's just impossible to get in. I mean, you'd have to wait an hour sometimes just to get into the booth and check things out. Yeah. I mean, it's just insanity. So no, I did not get to see it while I was there.
Oh, okay.
That's a really long answer to a short
it's
question.
Fine. When they announced it, my kids and I were in the middle of a game of Twilight Imperium 3.
Okay.
It wasn't like the second they announced it, but we had been playing it for a few days and then left it out on the table and we're coming back and playing turns and so forth. And I was like, boys, they just announced Twilight Imperium 4, and they're like, what? Because it's probably their favorite game, both of them. They
really?
They love playing Twilight Imperium 3. They love ganging up on me and then shifting alliances. And then my youngest joined me against my oldest son. And it's a great game. It has so many things that I hate in games. There's no reason at all that I should like that game. But part of it's just the experience of playing with my kids. And so Twilight Imperium 4, it's 12 years since Twilight Imperium 3 came out, which boggles my mind.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. It was 2005.
Wow. No kidding.
So you kind of go, oh yeah, well that makes sense that they'd reboot it, and they're kind of pulling in some of the stuff from the expansions, and so it seems like it's mostly the same with a few differences, and pulling in some of those great things from the expansions. And so for me right now, it's kind of a wait and see because for one thing, the game's like $150.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's really expensive. So I'm like, well, if it's not much different than what I have right now, I'm probably just going to play what I have right now. We'll see. But I'm really excited, and I love the different races and how differently they play, and so I'm excited about that, but also not looking forward to dropping 150 bones on it. Yeah,
if they want to send out a couple of review copies to the good old Theology of Games, we would not turn that down.
Well, I'm a built-in fan of the system already. I've talked about it a ton. Kids love it enough, so I'm probably gonna like it. But
right,
yeah, that'd be awesome. So that's our news. Gen Con is the news, and now it's come and gone, and we're heading into the fall season of nothing.
Yeah,
I guess Essen is coming up.
Essen's coming up, and then I think the last kind of big one in the States is PAX Unplugged.
All right, let's talk about what is on the table. Jeremiah, what have you been playing recently?
What have I been playing recently? Actually, I've played a good number of games, but I'll highlight 3 of them for now because we're going to talk about more of them later. So, first up is The Godfather, Corleone's Empire from CMON. It is... I only use this comparison because Jared Miller of CMON was the one that used it first. Like, this is how he described the game to me. He said it's like Lords of Waterdeep, except you can kill your enemies and dump them in the river. So it's pretty accurate. There you have 2 different types of it's worker placement. It's a really great design. It's Eric Lang designed it, and I mean, he's done a ton of just solid titles over his career. It's worker placement. You have 2 different types of workers. You have thugs and you have family members. And thugs go into businesses and they shake down the front. So there's like a front value and a back value, and you get a resource for going in and shaking it down. The family members don't go into the businesses. They get played on the border of turfs. So the map is like all the boroughs of New York, like Queens and Brooklyn and Chelsea and all that stuff. So it's all just, you place them down, and then they influence the turfs that they're touching. So some spots like can influence up to 3 different turf areas. But then they shake down all the backs of the businesses that they're touching. So you can get like 4, or like there's one spot where you can get 6 resources by playing one worker. So it's all, you gather those resources, you use those resources to do jobs. Those jobs can kill off other gang members, and which is just super awesome. It really adds a lot of tension to the timing of when you place a worker, because if you're too soon and it's a good spot, you're probably going to get killed off, and then you lose influence and you don't control that area anymore. And it's super cool. The components are great. There's really nice miniatures. There's these tin suitcases that have like a lid on them. So you like suitcase your money as part of like one of the actions you can do if you go to a business. And at the end of the game, it's the money that's in your suitcase is your victory points. Basically, you're trying to have the most money. Okay. It's just really good game. I really enjoyed it. I lost miserably, and I still loved it. So there's that. And then the other games I've played that I'll just mention really quick. The Fox in the Forest, which is from Foxtrot Games. It's a 2-player trick-taking game with it's a 3-suited game. And then the scoring is not just, hey, however many tricks you take, if you get the most, you win the hand or you get X amount of points. There's this whole like sliding scale. If you get like 0 to 3 tricks, you get a lot of points. If you get 9 to 12 tricks, you get a lot of points. Or you get 2, if you get, I think it's 9 to 12, you lose points. And then there's like a sliding scale in between. So if you take too many tricks, you don't get points. If you don't take many tricks, you get a lot of points. This whole like back and forth of like, how many tricks does he have? And some cards have, all the odd cards have powers too. So you can, you can swap the trump card out. You can, lead the next hand if you lose that trick with the 1 and things like that. So really cool game. And then lastly is Major General, which is another 2-player game, and it's from Ape Games, and it's all tactics. You play cards down next to a long board that make you do something and your opponent gets to do something. So you're trying to like decide which way you want to play it, because you want to advance troops or attack troops or rally troops or anything like that. You're trying to achieve objectives. Like it's all scenario based. So there's like, I don't know, 6 scenarios in there too that you're trying, and that's how you score points and all that stuff. So fun little game. I actually don't like the artwork at all. It's very ugly. So when I opened it, I was like, but it actually turned out to be a really fun game.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about the Fox in the Forest, and I was intrigued by a 2-player trick-taking game and wondered how that worked and if it worked well.
Yeah, with it being 3 suits, it worked really, really well. Like there was never a time in the game where I felt like, oh, I have a good hand and I think I can play it out, but I'm really just done if the other player is 3 suited. Like some people try to get down to that last suit so they can throw off. Right. And it just never happened because there's only 3 suits. So it's really easy. It's really balanced well like that. All right. So what do you got? What's been on the table in the Firestone household?
On my table has been Viral by Arcane Wonders. It's the next, I think it's a Dice Tower Essential.
I think it is. Yeah, I have a copy of it too. I haven't had a chance to play it, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's an area control game, but it takes place in a human body, and so you're following the flow of the arteries and veins and so forth that only go in certain directions. And so it's kind of cool because you'll have your little viruses that are in the brain, and you're like, well, but I want to get down to the kidney, and so you have to figure out, how am I going to get down to the kidney, because I can only go in this direction, and I have to play these cards, and it's really super cutthroat. Like most area control games are, but this one's like, oh man, you're just murdering people right and left, and it's all done in a fun way. Like it's not morbid. It could be morbid because you're infecting people and trying to, you know, this human body, but it's all kind of abstracted out and goofy, and the artwork is light enough that it doesn't feel like you're like hurting a real human being. That sounds weird, but it's a solid little game. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a fun game, but only if you're okay with getting picked on. So that's my caveat.
Yeah.
I also played Millennium Blades finally. I got this game a while back, and it's from Level 99 Games, and it is a game about playing CCGs. And so it's like, it's very meta. It's very meta. And so it's like, you are a person trying to get into the world of CCGs and compete on the tournament level. Mm-hmm. And so it's the reason it took me so long, it's so crazy. Like there's two parts of the game, and one is like a real-time thing where you're buying cards and building your decks, and they're like, you'll sell cards to this general area, and other people will buy it, and you can buy other cards from the store, and they on the back of them it looks like a foil pack of a Magic card or some CCG. That's the back of the card, and so you buy this card, and it represents a pack, and you flip it over, and you never know what you're going to get. It might be garbage, it might be great, and so you're trying to hone and make this deck in this real time, and then when you're done with that half of it, you flip over this board, and now you play out this tournament, and you play cards out in certain orders to score points or flip other people's cards and things like that. It's really hard to explain, and it's really hard to play. It is a gigantic mess of a game, and it was so great. Like I just had a blast. As soon as I was done, I was like, I would play this again immediately. I would play this again next week. It was crazy fun, but like I said, it's just a mess. It shouldn't work, and I can understand if somebody said to me it doesn't work, I'd be like, yeah, I agree with you. I still want to play tomorrow. And so Millennium Blades is nutso and fun. So expect a review from me that is probably as incoherent as this review has been verbally.
Awesome.
So, and then the last thing, the thing we've been playing the most probably at game night is Codenames Duet. And that is the new 2-player version of Codenames. It came out, I guess it came out at Gen Con, and so a few people have been able to snag copies, and it's fully cooperative, 2-player version. So you have the card that that shows which people are on your side, which people are assassins, and which people are generic. And it's 2-sided, so you're sitting across the table from each other, and some of the people that are on your team only you know, and some of the people that are on your team only they know. There are a couple of ones that both of you know, you just don't know which ones they are. And then each side has 5 assassins.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot more like, I could just kill us with this clue.
Right.
And it works great. It's super, super good. And we've, actually, I don't think I've ever played it just with 2 people. We've usually played with teams, and it works just fine. Like 2 or 3 on each side, still, just like normal Codenames. But and you just kind of go, you can't really talk about it as much because you don't want to give away information to the other side,
right? Since
it's cooperative. So you just kind of go like, does anybody have a good clue? And somebody will go, I have a 3. And you go, okay, great, say it. And so there's nice. Much less talking beforehand. They just go, okay, they give it. And then the other team can obviously talk about things. And it's really great. Vlada coming up with such a simple game as Codenames, he's going to make $1 million billion kajillion dollars off of this simple idea. And
once they start licensing it and all that stuff, and which is coming. Yeah, it's already out there.
Yeah, Disney and Marvel I've seen. Yep. I haven't played them, but I know they're out there.
Yeah.
And he can make anything out of it. It works. I thought, okay, Codenames Duet's fully cooperative. Oh, yep, it's awesome as well. So I fully recommend that game. It's so good.
Yeah, they were demoing it at Origins, and then I saw it at Gen Con, and I didn't get a chance to sit down and play because it was one of those booths that was just packed all the time. But it sounds fun, and it's Codenames. I mean, I guess it'd be really hard to mess up Codenames because it's just a simple, easy, fun, like it's Codenames. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and one of the great things, like even if you don't like the co-op part of it, I don't know, there must be like 500 cards. There are hundreds of extra cards that are formatted the same as regular Codenames that you can just swap in. So it's almost like just buying an expansion pack of cards if you want. Like if you never want to do the co-op part, you just have new cards to throw into the mix. So it's really great.
Yeah, my wife, her office actually just they call it Team Day. They do it like every year. And the theme this year was Spy versus Spy. So everybody teams up and they have all these different challenges they have to do and they earn points. And then if you win, like everybody on the team gets a $25 gift card. Like it's more like about bragging rights than anything. Mm-hmm. But there's a guy in her office that's a big board gamer. Like I see him at Origins every year. He was at Gen Con, and they ended up, like one of the challenges was your team had to play Codenames. And she's like, we're playing Codenames. And of course, like they did great. I was like, awesome. You're welcome, by the way.
Yeah.
All right. So we are going to do, like we said in the intro of the show, we're going to do a double take review of Custom Heroes from AEG. That's Alderac Entertainment Group.
Check out the knowledge on Jeremiah.
Right. So this is a game for 2 to 6 players? Or is it 2-player?
It's 2 to 6, yeah.
All right. And I don't know, what's the box say? It's like a 30-minute, 45-minute game. It really kind of depends on the amount of players, though, I feel. I think if you have more players, it takes a little bit longer.
It says 45 minutes. I've only played 4-player games, and that took maybe 30 minutes.
Okay.
So
I've played, I'm trying to think. I've played 3-player. I think I've played 4 and 5 as well. And they all seem in that 30 to 45 minutes. So that's probably pretty accurate. So let me give you the rundown of the components of what comes in the box. And basically what it comes with is it comes with some tokens that are victory points and power tokens. You'll understand when we talk about gameplay what the power tokens do and why you need the victory point tokens and how that all works out. But basically the components are, there's 60 cards. So it's 6 sets of cards that are just numbers, 1 through 10. There's no suits. There's no anything. It's just 1 through 10. They all have sleeves. You get to sleeve them all before you play. And there's a pouch full of enhancements, which are transparent cards, basically. They're plastic cards. Think like Gloom or Mystic Veil, that kind of card where you slide them in these sleeves with these cards and they change the aspect of the cards. So I don't even know how many of those there are. It's a healthy
84.
Stack. 84.
Yeah, 84 advancements.
All right.
60 character cards.
The enhancements are great. And there's also player screens. So while you're playing the game and you have these enhancements, you can store them behind your screen and people can't really see what you can do during the gameplay with these enhancements. And I think that's about it, really. It's a fairly small box. The components are pretty straightforward.
So the way you play is, if you're familiar with Teach You, it's not really a trick. Well, there's kind of controversy on whether a climbing game is a trick-taking game.
Right.
I don't think it is, personally.
Okay.
But I understand why some people do, and that's fine. But a climbing game is not quite like a trick-taking game because basically you're trying to match or beat what has been played before. And so something like Teach You, where someone would play a pair of 2s, you have to also play a pair of 2s or something higher, and it keeps going around until people pass, and then someone does take the trick and then lead. But yeah, it's just kind of a little bit different.
It's a loose interpretation of the term trick taker.
Right. And so Tichu has you playing pairs, singles, straights, and things like that. But in Custom Heroes, you're only playing down any number of the same number of cards. So a single 2, or a pair of 4s, or 4 4s, or whatever. It's just the number that you're playing. And then the next people are trying to either match that or beat it. And where this game is so interesting and clever is that you get these enhancements, which are those cards we said that you slide in, and they will affect the card in some manner. And it might be to change an 8 to, it might subtract 2 from it. And so now that 8 is a 6. And for the rest of the game, that card is a 6. So it's that for your hand, but then also when you shuffle everything together and deal it out again, that enhancement is still in it. And so it's a 6. But then somebody else later could add a +3 to it. And so now it's up to a 9. And so that's what it is now. And so you're adding these enhancements, and each one can only take 4 enhancements of 4 different colors. And so it's not like there's 27 things to keep track of on each card. It's adding them or subtracting kind of the base number. It might be, some of them say this card counts as 2 copies of itself. So somebody plays a pair of 4s, you can play a 4 that has that enhancement in it, and it's the same thing. You've played a pair of 4s as well. So things like that just affect the gameplay in some manner. And one of the fun and clever things they did is each of the characters, the cards are characters, and one of them, they're all holding their right hand kind of to the side, and their left hand is up in the air, almost forming a fist. And the way these overlays work is the artwork fits over their hand. So some of them are cool, like somebody now is holding, it looks like they're holding a sword. But some of them, it looks like they're holding a giant foam finger, or they have a cabbage in their hand that they're getting ready to throw, or a boxing glove. So it's kind of funny and goofy, but it's got serious gameplay. Like there are serious decisions to be made. I never felt like it was completely obvious what I was supposed to do and how am I going to be able to play this hand out the best. There are certain enhancements that you have to be able to play power tokens in order to activate the power. You can still play the card, but if you don't play the enhancement, it's just as a normal card. Or you can pay the power token that you might have, and it activates that enhancement's power. And so, anyway, it's just fun, and you're trying to go out first, and then you'll get certain cards, enhancements, and power tokens and VPs based on which order you went out. It is the first person to, I'm trying to remember now.
It's the first person to 10 points, and
yes,
then
and
after
then you
they
have to go out first.
Yeah, you have to come in first after as you have 10 points.
Yes, in early testing, the game was kind of getting bogged down at the end of the game because somebody would get to 10 points and then they just couldn't get first place, and it would draw out and draw out and draw out. And so now, if at the end of the 6th hand no one has won the game, there's like a final championship hand. And so you know that the game is only ever going to go 6 hands. And so that helps move things along and keep it from getting bogged down. And we've really enjoyed it. Let's talk about the verdict.
Yeah. So
unless there's something else I forgot on the gameplay.
I think you covered it all. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the verdict with this one. I actually spoke with Todd Rowland of AEG at Gen Con about it because oddly enough, they were releasing it there, but my copy showed up in the mail like the day I left after I had already left. So I didn't get a chance to open my own copy, but he was the art director on this as well. And he went to the artist and he said, I want you to use every overused trope in anime on the artwork for this. And it comes through. And also, just like you said, with the way the enhancements work with putting a weapon in their hand or a hindrance in their hand, or, just the way they affect it. And it's still kind of thematic and has a little fun and a little lightheartedness. I really enjoyed it. I played it with my boys and they think it's the greatest thing ever. They crack me up with this thing. So yeah. So artwork is spot on. There's a couple of female characters where the body image thing is just right on that edge. you know?
Yes.
So that's
a little low cut things in the front.
Yeah. So just something to be aware of there, but it doesn't play into the gameplay of it at all. Like it's still a card that's worth X amount of points, you know, or has a value of whatever.
Yeah, I agree. We've had a lot of fun with it. We played it for a number of weeks in a row. And one thing we all thought, and I know this seems weird, is like we were all thinking this immediately needs an expansion. And because we were seeing a lot of the same cards and enhancements come out, we just felt like, oh, I wonder what it would be like if there were more surprises in a game where you weren't sure if something was going to come out. I know that would be a lot of work to just add immediately another expansion, but I'm not saying it doesn't feel like a complete game. It totally does, but you're already like itching to get more variety in there and more cool enhancements to add to the game.
Yeah.
But it's really fun. We've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think the crazy thing is you get like halfway through the first hand maybe, and cards are already getting jacked up. And I mean, I've had games where we've had like 3 14s in there. And you're like, why are there 3 14s? Like somebody leads 3 14s. You're like, what? And I mean, I played a hand where somebody played, I want to say it was 7 10s.
Whoa.
I'm like, yeah. I'm like, how did you, first of all, why are there that many 10s in this set already?
Right.
And it was like a 3 or 4 player game. It wasn't like it was like a 6 player game and they got all the 10s and they enhanced one. It was a bunch of enhancements going on. Consequently, that person didn't win that hand because they could never get the lead back
right
after that. So it was this like moment of, oh my gosh, and then nothing. See, my problem with trick-taking games is like euchre is a game that is huge in Ohio. I don't know if you've ever played euchre before.
I have, yeah.
But I can get my cards, see what the trump card is, and go, no, I'm not going to win a point this hand. Like you just, once you know, like it's very programmed. It all has to do with how the cards are dealt, and then that's it. But this totally mitigates that because, okay, I've got some good cards, I've got some matches, I've got some sets here, but I don't know that I'm going to win this hand because I don't know what other people have in their hand or the enhancements that they're going to put in each card because the combinations are just ridiculous. So I love that about it. It still feels like a trick-taking game, although there's some questioning if this is a style of trick-taking game or not. But it still feels like a trick-taking game, but it doesn't feel programmed where I'm like, oh, I know all the cards. I know how much is out there. I know, there's no perfect knowledge. And I think that's great. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, and the thing I really liked was that every hand kind of felt like a puzzle. It's like I have these cards and I have these enhancements. How can I use them to match that, to beat that? And so sometimes it was actually a little prone to analysis paralysis because of that. Because you'd be like, okay, they led 2 8s. How can I get these into 2 8s? Because if I do that, I feel like I can go out. Right. And so you're kind of just thinking through, if I do this and add this and subtract this, and sometimes you're like, I have to put 3 enhancements on this one dumb card, but it's going to make it into an 8.
And I need that for this hand. Right,
yeah.
Right.
So it's really, I like that puzzle aspect of it, and it's a solid little game.
I've played it family gatherings. I've played it with my kids. I've played it with gamers. It hits everywhere. Like it's not like nobody's been like, it was okay. Like everybody's had a really good time with it. It's not the heaviest game, but it's an easy game to teach, and the decisions are real decisions that you're making. So
yeah,
even though it arrived before Gen Con, but it's one of the biggest games at Gen Con that I really, really enjoyed. It's super, super fun.
Yep. Thumbs up from me.
Yeah. Highly, highly recommended from both of us. The TOG stamp of approval.
So that's our double take review. Custom Heroes. Big thumbs up from both of us. We recommend it.
Yes, indeed.
All right, let's move on to Fire
and Ice.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, we're going to start with the Fire game. This is a game that we are on fire for, that we have had just been blazing. We've had fun with it, and just a hot game for us. So what is yours, Jeremiah?
Mine is The Godfather, Corleone's Empire. I want to play it again so bad, not just because I lost and I want revenge, which is part of it, but it's so good. It's quickly climbing the ranks of my worker placement games, like all time, just in the week or so since I've played it. And, I loved Lords of Waterdeep when that's just this classic, great, everybody goes to that for worker placement. I really feel like this slides right in next to it and gives it a run for the money. Just so solid, so fun. Thematically, everything really makes a lot of sense. And I mean, you literally take people's figures and you put them in the Hudson River. How cool is that?
That sounds pretty cool.
But that aside, it's designed really well. It makes a lot of sense. And it's not a game that overstays its welcome either. I think we played it in about 80 to 90 minutes with, I think there were 3 of us. So it progresses well. It plays well. It's a really, really fun game. So that's my fire game.
Nice.
What about you, sir?
My fire game actually has fire in the title.
Whoa.
That's how fiery it is. It's Dragonfire.
Yeah.
By Catalyst Game Labs. Yeah, so Dragonfire, Catalyst Game Labs got the license to do Dungeons and Dragons games, which is a huge coup for them because that's a great IP. So one of the things they did is they created Dragonfire, which you may have heard of Shadowrun Crossfire. It's a cooperative game, card game, deck building game that they came out with a few years ago. We played it, we reviewed it, we liked it, and this is
it's also a legacy game too.
Yes, you get stickers, permanent stickers on your characters that let them level up, and it's really difficult to get them. It's not like every single game you get a new sticker. It's like you play 10 games and you finally get one little thing that helps you one little way to finally do something slightly better.
It is a brutal game.
So
yes.
It is brutal. It is, it really takes a commitment on your part. And so I thought, okay, this is just going to be Shadowrun Crossfire with fantasy theme. And in a lot of ways, it is. But they have really tried to create a new experience where it really feels like Dungeons and Dragons. It feels like you're going to these different locations and fighting new things. And one thing they did, it's a small thing, but it is better. In Shadowrun, you had to defeat these enemies. These enemies would have different values on them, and you'd have to defeat there might be 3 levels. And you'd have to defeat the first level before you can move to the second level, defeat that, and move to the third level. They got a lot of complaints about how difficult it was. And so they said, okay, for Dragonfire, basically, here are some levels. You can put all your cards together that you're going to fight this with. You still have to go through the level, but you can this card can cover both of these levels, and it's just a little looser with how you deal out damage.
Okay.
And so it feels a little more forgiving. Having said that, we got the crap kicked out of us in our first game.
Good.
Yeah, and so it was just a level 1 adventure, and for a while we're like, hey, we're doing pretty good, and then suddenly just kick in the teeth, and it was a downward spiral from there. But we all enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and we just did a one-off, but everyone afterward was like, I think I would play this as a campaign if we want to do that. And so
nice.
I think this week we might be starting a campaign of Dragonfire, and cool. I'm totally in on it because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have my copy sitting downstairs. I really want to get it on the table soon. So I enjoyed Shadowrun Crossfire, and when I heard about this one, I was like, get me some of that. So looking forward to it. Sounds awesome. All right, sir. What about your ice game? Let's move on to the ice portion of this segment.
Okay, so the ice is related to the fire because basically I played Dragonfire and it fired Shadowrun Crossfire for me because I realized
here.
I never need to play that game again. It's so similar that I was like, well, I really only need one of these. And the theme of Dragonfire is more fun for me. The Shadowrun Crossfire, I don't have any background with the RPG. I don't think you did either.
No, yeah.
And it's this dark, gritty, pseudo fantasy world where they're like
technopunk and
half orcs living in modern times with motorcycles and gangs, and it feels like technopunk, cyberpunk, fantasy punk. It's just crazy. And if I had a background with the RPG, then I might feel more of an affinity to it.
Sure.
But the truth is, like, I'm thinking, it's too dark and gritty for me. It's not something I'm going to be like, hey kids, you want to jump into this techno-punk land with these crazy half-orcs and demons and stuff? So there's that aspect and it's harder. It's more difficult.
Yeah.
And brutally so. And so I just felt like, I don't think I need to play Shadowrun Crossfire ever again because Dragonfire exists now. And they have like plans already for lots of expansions. There were a few expansions for Shadowrun, but I don't know that they ever got a lot of traction with it. And so the fact that they're going to have all these expansions for Dragonfire, I'm just like, yep, that's my new game. And Shadowrun, you're out the door.
You, sir, have been fired. Good day.
I'm going to put them in the Hudson River.
There you go. Well, you might just want to put it on the Geek and see if you can trade it for something. But
what about you?
I had a hard time choosing between two games, so I think I'm going to just give one an honorable mention. Don't tell my kids this, but the honorable mention one is Ice Cool, and it's not just because it has ice in the name. So
what?
So Ice Cool was given the Family Game or Kids Game of the Year award by another website that I won't mention, and I don't know why.
Okay.
It's a dexterity game, and the box is like the board, like it nests, so like you take the lid off and you take these different layers out and they all like clip together and it creates this penguin school, I guess. And you're trying to like flick your penguin through the hallways and the doorways and stuff and collect fish. And one person's the catcher and the other ones are the runners. And it just, I don't know. It didn't do it for me. I'm not a huge dexterity fan. So, I mean, I like flick 'em up and things like that. But I don't know. This one just didn't do it for me. But that's my honorable mention. The game that's really on cold ice for me right now is a disappointment. It's called Dark is the Night, and it's from Ape Games, and they gave me a copy when I was at Gen Con, and it's an asymmetrical 2-player game, and the board is a 3x3 grid with a campfire in the middle square, and so one player is the hunter that is moving around this perimeter of this grid on this campfire. And the other player is a monster who's moving in secrecy with a dial. Like there's number spots around the perimeter of this board, and they record their moves on a dial as the game goes on. And when I tell you that, you should think that sounds really cool. And it does sound really cool. And I opened the box and the board looks really cool. And there's a really nice looking miniature for the hunter that is very cool. And the components like the dial, and there's these tokens that give the hunter a bunch of different special powers. They can shoot an arrow across the board to try to guess if the monster's there, or to illuminate a part of the board, or there's a trap they can set, or mutton they can put out. And all these things all sound really cool, but when you play the game, it's not good. I don't know what it is. Like there's just something missing from the game. Like we were trying to figure out like if the board was a 4x4. We played the game 3 times, and the first 2 times the game was over after the second turn. And the third time it lasted a few more turns, but we got after like that second or third turn, we're like, oh, I see how this is going to end. Like the hunter found the monster like right away. So I don't know. I feel really bad because it's such a cool looking game. It's a cool concept, but it just did not work. And for that, I have to put it on ice.
That's too bad.
It's very bad. It's disappointing, but
especially because the Ape Games folks, and you don't want to be like, hey, your game stinks.
Right. But it was weird because we played that and we played Major General, which I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Dark as the Night looks amazing, but it didn't play well at all. Major General looked really bad. I was not a fan of the artwork at all, but it played great. So I don't know. They got to mesh the two together or something. But yeah, so there's that.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, there's our Fire and Ice segment.
I always feel bad after the ice portion of that segment. Like, sorry, I just trashed your game.
Yeah, but I think that's part of us being honest. Like, sometimes you're going to play a game and go, I didn't really enjoy that experience. And if you can keep someone else from having that same experience and buying a game,
yeah,
I feel like that's a service.
It is.
They may not agree with you, so they might take it with a grain of salt and go, oh, I never agree with Firestone, and I always agree with Jeremiah, so I'll,
right.
think about it that way. But
yeah,
it is rough saying, here's a game I didn't like.
Yeah.
But sometimes
I usually I try to pick a game that I'm just not excited about right now, and then hopefully I will be someday. But
well, yeah, I mean, I like Shadowrun Crossfire. I just don't need it anymore.
In the light of Dragonfire,
which is by the same company.
Right.
So yeah. Let's fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Fill in the
blank.
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay. Jeremiah, your favorite thing about fall is
my birthday.
Oh. As a good friend of yours, I should know this, and yet here I am forgetting.
My birthday is the day before Halloween. It's October 30. So
okay.
I am not as young as I used to be, but I still love my having a birthday, and it's my day, and I get to do fun things, and people give me stuff. I don't the whole people. Oh, it's my birthday. I'm old. Shut up. You're only as old as you feel, right?
Also, you survived another year. Shouldn't
exactly.
You be happy about that?
Celebrate that. So I will be turning 41 this year, and I don't know. I'm still looking forward to my birthday. It's a good time, but a non-selfish answer, I guess.
Oh, that's fine to have a selfish answer.
Would be I love football season too, and my oldest is playing football this year for the first time, and he's loving it. So we're having a good time with that. But
nice.
that's my second answer. My first one is my birthday. What about you? What's
a good answer?
Fill in that blank.
It is football for me too. There's just something about, and my son is playing, my youngest is playing flag football.
Okay.
And this weekend we went to his first game, and it was cold. We pulled in, it was 50 degrees. It was not snowing. It was raining a little bit.
Okay.
So we're in I'm in my typical fall shorts and a hoodie, and it's raining, and I'm watching my kids play football, and I'm like, this is it. This is just the best. And it's so fall, and on the first play of the game, they kick off to my son's team. He grabs the ball and runs it all the way back for a touchdown. And just being able to see that was so great. And
That's
it was
cool.
This is fall. I love fall. So that's my favorite thing about fall.
That's cool. All right, let's move on to the next fill in the blank question. And it is blank is my favorite 2-player game.
My favorite 2-player game. Well, it is probably... I'm waffling on this now.
Yeah.
I think if I had to choose, it would probably be Reiner Knizia's Battle Line. Or Schottentotten. He had this old game called Schottentotten, and then they re-themed it called Battle Line.
Okay.
And it's you're just facing your opponent, and you have 10 different lines out, and you're trying to win each of these lines by playing out cards. And you're all pulling from the same pool of cards. And so it's hard to explain, but you're trying to lay out certain numbers. And if you see your opponent lay that number on their side, you go, oh, I'm never going to be able to play that on this set of cards because they've played it over there. And so it's kind of waiting and playing your cards at the right time and trying to draw them in and then going, haha, I actually have that card. You're never going to get that line. And, very tactical, and it's just a classic. And I keep going back to it and thinking, I think that's my favorite 2-player game, even though there are some great ones recently.
Yeah.
You're probably going to mention one of them. But it's really great.
Cool. I've not played that, so I'm going to have to chase it down. But yeah, I say mine is probably Seven Wonders Duel right now. Great game, just super well designed. It works so well. Solid game. We talked about it a few episodes ago, and
it's great.
It
was on my short list for sure.
We just filled in the blank.
We did.
Which brings us to
the lightning round.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves for the lightning round. All right, so we've actually done this first lightning round question before. We did this like in January, like right after Christmas. But it's,
did we?
It's kind of different timing, so it works.
Yeah, I think it does.
So the question is, predict, or I guess the statement is, or the command is, predict your Super Bowl winner. So we did this like it was in the midst of playoff season, right? Last time.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So football season has just started. We're in week 2.
Right. So it's a wide open field here.
Yes. So predict who's winning the Super Bowl this year.
Well, we're recording this on the day of the second game, the second week of the season, when the Broncos today crushed the Dallas Cowboys, which was amazing.
We can't be
because
friends.
my wife. What?
We can't be friends anymore.
What?
You're a Broncos fan.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the ups and downs, believe me, the downs have been there for sure. But my wife is from Texas, diehard Texas fan, so it was quite a tension-filled afternoon here, but we crushed them. So my heart says, oh, it's going to be the Broncos. They look really great. But the truth is, and this is so hard for me to admit, that if I were to just guess right now, I'm going to say the Raiders.
Ooh.
Because
I knew you were going to go there.
Well,
they look good.
I hate it. They do look good. And they're in our division, so I hate to say it. And I am a lifelong Raider hater. But, boy, they look good.
So you're going with the Raiders?
Yeah, that's my early pick.
Mark it down. Mark it down.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to be the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
No, that's not
Mark
true.
it down.
That's not true. Gosh.
That's your heart. I get it. You should.
That game was hard to watch today. Too many turnovers. Holding the ball too long there, Deshaun Kaiser. That'll get you killed every time. No, it is supremely hard for me to go against the thought of the Patriots winning. See, I don't know. I'm over the whole like Patriot hating thing. I know a lot of people hate the Patriots for a multitude of reasons. Mm-hmm. But dude, it's Tom Brady.
All good.
What Tom Brady, like, what did he throw? Like 3 touchdowns in the first quarter today?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
They were playing the Jets.
But come on. Still, that's the first time he's ever done that in his career. And he's 40. He's like as old as me. Like, I don't know. I have a hard time saying it's not going to be the Patriots.
Yeah,
so
I get that.
I think that's my answer right there. So
all right. So keeping with that theme,
lightning round. Question 2.
Who do you think is going to win the World Series? And now we're kind of getting close to the World Series playoffs. Right. So it's like a reverse of what we did last with the Super Bowl.
It is without a doubt going to be the Cleveland Indians. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Cleveland fan.
Didn't they have a recent winning streak?
Yeah, 22 games. The longest. So there's like some contention about this because the longest game without, or the longest streak without a loss is 26. But that was the New York Baseball Giants, like literally like 80 some years ago, 100 years ago. I don't know, when they still could have a tie game. So they tied some games and they got the streak of not being beaten to 26. But the longest winning streak in the major leagues is 22 games set by the Cleveland Indians in 2017. But their pitching is so good, and they're going to win it this year. It's going to happen.
Well, here's the truth, and I may have mentioned this on a podcast before. I think baseball is incredibly boring. I will often watch the World Series just because it's kind of, like that's the most exciting baseball is going to get. And last year, I certainly appreciated the historicity of the Cubs winning. Like, I was excited along with all those Cubs fans, but I don't follow it. I only happened to see that the Indians had that streak. It's not like I've been following it and knew that.
Right.
So I'm going to say the Indians only because I trust you, but I don't know anything about who's in the playoffs. Who's
right. Yeah. Truth be told, I'm like a fall ball fan. Like, so when it gets late August, September, I really start kind of dialing in. It's a super long season. So
hard to be excited for that.
Yeah. I don't have the time to be invested in baseball all year long, but as the playoffs approach and everything, I am fully on board and excited to see what's going on. And you almost, living where I live, it's hard to not be, especially when the Indians are good, because it is such a baseball town. It's such a sports town. It really is. So it's hard to, you can't avoid it in a way. So I enjoy it. It's an exciting time. It's a good time, and baseball can be hard to watch, but when the playoffs come around, it really is like, there's just something different about it,
Yeah, I get that. I'm just excited because when I see that baseball playoffs are coming, I know that hockey season's coming.
Ah, yes.
And that's my, football's number one, but hockey's number two, close number two.
There you go. We'll be talking about Stanley Cup here in a few months, but
yeah, so we'll have maybe that as a lightning round question soon. All right, so what TV show are you binge watching right now?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had a similar question in the last episode, and it was just, what Netflix show are you into? But binge watching and into are two different things.
I suppose that's true, yeah.
And we didn't nail this down to Netflix. But I'll give you the update on the show that I talked about in the last episode. I think it was the last episode, I mentioned that I had started season 1, episode 1 of The Office.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I am, the next episode I watch will be the series finale. So,
oh, wow.
I burned through those 9 seasons pretty quick.
Wow.
But, when I'm working in my studio, if I'm writing or if I'm editing or doing whatever, I'll literally just have episodes playing. So I'm not sitting down and watching 3 hours of The Office at a time while I'm eating popcorn or ice cream or whatever. So it's not like I binge watched in that way, but it's definitely been an old comfortable sweater, it's just this nice, funny, I don't have to think about it. It's what I need in this time of life for my entertainment. So it's been The Office for me. What about you?
I went and started watching kind of an oldie. My Name is Earl. You remember that show?
I do remember that show. I don't know if I ever watched it though.
Oh, okay. So Earl is this loser guy. He has a brother who's also a loser. He's married to a loser, a total loser. And he gets hit by a car right after he wins the lottery, and he thinks it's karma telling him, hey, you need to get your life straight. And so he writes down a list of everything bad he's ever done, and every episode is him crossing one of those things off the list. And so it might be I screwed up somebody's wedding, or I got somebody sent to jail, or whatever. And it's just him it's him working through karma, trying to make himself a better person. And so it's kind of funny. It's often more bawdy and dirtier than I remembered it being when I watched it on TV. Yeah, a little bit. It's not terrible, but one of the things that got me, the reason I'm binge watching it is because I was watching, I don't know, halfway through the first season, and one of those little things popped up, which is super helpful that Netflix does now, and it goes, by the way, this show's going to be gone October 1st.
Oh.
And so I was like, oh, no, I have to really watch all these as fast as I possibly can. So I'm grateful, but it also was like, well, I guess I know what I'm doing now. And so I get up in the morning and before the kids get up, because as I mentioned, it's a little on the dirtier side sometimes, I watch My Name is Earl and watch this guy try and work through karma when he should be working through Jesus.
There you go.
Yeah, anyway, it was funny.
All right, so last lightning round question is, what is your favorite podcast? Of course, we have to exclude this one.
Right, because this and That's How I Roll are obviously my favorites. But the one I've been listening to a lot lately it's called Writing Excuses. And there's an author named Brandon Sanderson who is one of my favorite authors. And it's because he takes his writing very seriously. It's a job for him. And I may have mentioned this before on the podcast. It sounds familiar. But basically, like, everyone goes, how can you write so many books? Because he just cranks them out. Mm-hmm. Big books, too, like 1,000-page, crazy, gigantic books. And he goes, the reason I do it is because it's my job. And that's how I put food on the table. And he goes, I don't understand these weirdos who are like, oh, I don't have the muse, and I'm 4 years between books, and blah, blah, blah. He goes, you need to sit your butt down and write. Because... So he just doesn't understand people that are not, like, you're a writer, you should be writing. And he does that. Yeah. And he treats it like a job because it is a job. And so, but he doesn't crank out these boring books that, feel like, oh, it's just a guy working through the motions and treating it as a job. Like, they're clever and smart. And his novella, The Emperor's Soul, is one of the best things I've ever read in my life. It's fantastic.
Nice.
If you ever read Brandon Sanderson, read this novella, and it's amazing. It won the Hugo, it won, I think, the Nebula. It's great. So anyway, he does this Writing Excuses podcast with some other people, and they just riff on a subject for, it's not even that long. It's like 15 to 30 minutes, if that. So it'll be like, what does a subplot really look like? And what are editors looking for? And things like that, where it kind of talks about the craft of writing. Super fast, in and out, practical advice from people who know what they're talking about. And it's fantastic if you've ever wanted to write.
Nice.
So,
yeah, I'll
Writing
check that
Excuses.
Out. Writing Excuses. I like it.
Yeah.
Cool.
How about you?
I actually, when we wrote this question, I was like, oh, I'm going to pick this one. But then I was like, oh, I like that one. And I don't know. I've actually started listening to quite a few more podcasts recently just because I'm working a lot more doing podcasts and things like that. So anyway, I'm going to probably say, Here's the Thing, which is Alec Baldwin. That's the name of the show, is Here's the Thing. And it's super interesting to listen to. He talks to stars, entertainers, policymakers, but it's not like, oh, some upstart person who's trying to make it big, so they're doing like rounds on podcasts and stuff. It's like Jerry Seinfeld and Chris Rock and Jimmy Fallon and big Broadway names and things like that. And he had Coppola, or is it Coppola?
Francis Ford Coppola?
His daughter, though.
Oh, Sophia Coppola.
Yeah, he had her on a show. And so he's talking with people who are in the entertainment industry, but he himself has been entrenched in that industry for decades now. So the way that he communicates and talks with them is just so much more interesting because they know all the same people, they know all the same circles, and it's like they speak the same language. It's not like an interviewer trying to interview somebody and they have no idea what they're talking about. It's just this really cool conversation, and it's a really interesting podcast.
I'll check that out.
Yeah. I've been listening to like Total Party Kill, which is a D&D podcast. There's these people playing D&D over the internet and a bunch of other podcasts. But that one is just, it fascinates me. And even if it's somebody that I don't really know their work necessarily, like he had a Broadway star on, and I'm like, I like Broadway, but I don't know Broadway people. You know, I'm not like into it that way.
Right.
But it was fascinating just because of he was just a great interviewer and really can communicate well and kind of get the most out of the people that he's interviewing. So really, really good listen.
I will have to add that to the list.
So I think that's it.
We're done.
Episode
19
in the can. So yeah, let's put a wrap on this one. As always, we would ask if you want to contact us, you can write theologyofgames@gmail.com. You can go to the Twitter machine and look up at Theology of Games. Same thing with Instagram or Facebook. We're all over the place there. And of course, you can go to theologyofgames.com and find links to all of those places. Find all of our written content, the other podcasts that we do here on the site, which is That's How I Roll. There's just all kinds of stuff going on. What am I forgetting here?
You can go to our YouTube channel and subscribe there.
Yeah, we've got the YouTubes, and we're cranking that machine back up a little bit more too. So look for more video review content coming very, very soon to YouTube.
I think that's it. As always, thanks for listening. We appreciate you listening and reading and writing and interacting with us, because we love interacting with you guys. And if you think we're way off on one of our opinions on something, or think we got to check out something given our taste in games and so forth, hit us up and let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and if you have a better name for the On the Table segment, we are all ears. Please sound off on that. Should be like a contest. We'll get some really great prize and give away something to somebody that names that segment.
We could do that, actually.
That might be fun. But and also, if you have a few seconds to go over to iTunes, click on the subscribe, and also click on like the 5 stars and maybe write a little review. That'd be great too. But yeah, we really appreciate that. That helps get us seen by more folks, which helps us keep this thing going and alive as best we can. So we would appreciate that as well. And I think we've covered everything.
Sounds good to me.
There's nothing left but to say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. We'll talk to you later.
See you next time.
You've been listening to the Theology of Games podcast with Jeremiah Isley and Scott Firestone. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd appreciate your subscription to the podcast and your review on iTunes. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day, and until next time, get a game on the table.